Powering up, it's the Freakacast!
It's a me, Matthew!
It's a me, Andrew!
And we are the Freakacast!
Cast. Sorry, went to the count there for a minute.
For some reason we went from Italian to Romanian there.
And Sesame Street.
He was always my favorite character, though.
I can see why.
Well, mostly because he was a vampire.
But he never killed people.
I know, which why he was a good vampire. He had the coolness aspect because he had the voice and the look and everything, but he didn't bite people, so.
No. But we're not talking about that this time.
No. We just got off on a tangent already.
Good for us, right? Anyway, as you probably may have noticed, I am Andrew, he's Matt, and we are the Freakacast.
Next time it'll be the other way around.
I hope not. Because that would mean I had to start building things and have to be good at math, and that's not going to work.
That could be a break for me. I like the sound of this. Play video games. I don't have to think as much. That's not true. You think just as much as I do, just in a different way.
Indeed. So, before we get underway with our topic of the night,
yes,
you need to get the boring stuff out of the way, which is you can find us online at afelson1.wordpress.com. That's afelson1.wordpress.com.
Yep.
Or on iTunes, search for Andrew's Brain or the Freakacast.
You find it quicker with Andrew's Brain.
Also, for some strange reason that I don't know, it doesn't keep all the old shows. So if you want to hear the first episode and beyond, make sure to go to the blog, because you can always download them for free.
Yeah, especially our awesome Batman episodes.
Yes, our very awesome Batman episodes. Our talk about Mega Man, I think, might be gone.
I know the first one we did, the Freakazoid one, is not there.
I don't know why that is, so if someone has any clue why iTunes just decided to cut episodes, let me know.
Yeah, send us a message on, here's another plug, on Facebook. If you go facebook.com/freakout entertainment, you can find us there.
Make sure to click on the one that has the Freakazoid on it.
Yes, because there apparently are others. So, yeah, like us on that, and you can see all the different videos that we post, as well as pictures from different things. I think I recently posted the picture of the Robin look for the new Arkham City game,
which I'm really looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to watching you play that game.
It's a shame because it's not two-player.
I know. And you'd think if they're going to incorporate Robin, why not have you play as both Batman and Robin, so you can have a two-player game?
Plus, they did announce that Catwoman is a playable character.
Yes.
So you'd think also with another playable character,
you could have a two-player game.
You have a two-player game. Maybe for downloadable content, they might put that in there.
Maybe they'll finally get wind of that.
And also, just so you're aware, you can post comments on the blog as well, so feel free to do that.
Yes.
We do like your feedback.
We would love feedback, because we don't have any yet, do we?
We have some.
Okay. I don't look at it as much as you do, so.
Plus, I want to, again, mention songstowearpants2.com.
Yes, for this awesome theme song.
Which I can't get enough of.
I know, seriously. It's like, I wish it was longer.
It would have cost more. But it was a reasonable price, because you can suggest songs for free, but if you really want a song, and you have specifics, you can pay for it, and he will make it.
And in our case, yeah, and he does a great job of it. I mean, it's only a 30-second song, but it really is a great theme song that gets everything we need into it.
Right. And it's just plain awesome.
Yeah.
Also, check out newgrounds.com for Flash animation and games and a lot of music that you can get royalty-free. Just remember to cite the source.
Yep. And batmanonfilm.com for all your Batman news. And one of the main reasons I want to plug that site is because there's a lot of other sites that will post major spoilers. And one of the great things about that Batman on Film is the fact that the guy who runs that, his name is Bill Ramey, he is absolutely anal about not posting spoilers, and he kind of hates anyone who does.
Which is nice.
It is nice. So he's basically saving people from themselves. You can he will post things like when the picture of Bane came up, he posted that. Stuff that is released, that is publicly released through Warner Brothers, stuff that they want to release, he will post on a site. I'm sure when the trailer comes out, he'll post it on a site. But unless it's on that site, it's probably, you can't trust it. You don't even know if it's a rumor or a spoiler or what. But at that site, you know it can be trusted. And I also want to plug a site that just kind of came up about a couple months ago. It's called modernmythmedia.com. That's basically a sister site to Batman on Film. It's run by a guy named Sean. And it's kind of the same thing. You get all your news for basically any other kind of superhero character. Green Lantern, Thor, Captain America, anything that's film related at least.
Was he a Gerber baby?
Probably.
All right then.
I'm sure he was a Gerber baby. He's actually a couple years younger than us, so I'm very certain he was a Gerber baby.
All right then. Sorry, person. I just had to say it, and I'm sure you've heard that comment all your life.
If he hasn't, we're throwing a new one in there for him.
If he hasn't, what's wrong with the rest of the people?
I know. But they also have their own podcast. They do a pretty good show, so I want to plug them because I get a lot of information from them. They do a good job with the site and the show, so check them out. And, of course, Brickshelf. If you're looking for new ideas of stuff to build with Legos or you just want to see cool stuff made, check that out. It's pretty cool.
Yep. And we have other stuff we like, but I usually post the links on the blog itself, so definitely check that out.
And I also have all the links that we mention on this show, we do have posted on our Freakout Entertainment page on Facebook, so you can find that as well.
Okay, now that we're done with that, let's get into the actual topic, shall we?
What are we talking about? I forgot.
It's a Mario!
Oh, Mario! I should have made a spaghetti!
Please take no offense. We're just
But
doing
we
what
have
they do.
pizza!
We did. We had pizza last night, actually. And today. It was awesome.
It was awesome. It was totally radical.
Dude. So, Mario. One of
Yes.
the very few games and
Oh.
characters you're somewhat familiar with.
I know. This is a first.
It's quite amazing. Which is why I
This
had
won't
to...
happen often, so let's enjoy it while we can.
No, so I had to go out of my way to make sure I found some interesting and cool stuff. Like, for example, he was created in 1981, so he is older than us, well over 20 years old.
Wow. Yeah, in fact, I'd say he's 30 years old this year, actually.
30 years of Mario. Awesome. That's quite a long while for a character.
Yay!
A character that has still very current and has a longevity still going.
Yeah,
Can't say that for everything.
No, you can't. Especially for a video game character. And you think about it, the only two characters I can really think of that have had a longevity, they're in the public mindset, just of them, the average person are Mario and Zelda.
I was
Obviously
also
not
say
not
Sonic the Hedgehog, too.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Sonic, because they had the cartoon and everything, but Mario is definitely there. It's like, you can grab a random person on the street and they'll know who Mario is.
That's pretty much how it kind of goes, where if that's the first character people think of when you say video game.
Yep.
That's usually the first one that pops up in mind. Now, there are other characters that have been around that have had longevity as well, but not nearly as well known. Like, even ones that are well known within the video game community cannot claim that they are the most well-known character.
You could say he's the Superman of the video game universe.
Yeah, I would go with that. He was created by Shigeru Miyamoto.
Say that 3 times fast.
Miyamoto.
I meant the whole name.
I don't think I could do him justice.
Probably not. That's why I suggested you do it instead of me.
He was originally put in the game Donkey Kong.
Okay, so Donkey Kong came before Mario.
Kind of at the same time.
Okay.
The premise was Donkey Kong, but they needed a protagonist.
Right.
For the antagonist that was Donkey Kong.
Right.
And he was originally called, because he didn't have an official name at that game, so he was either going to be Jumpman, because he jumped.
He jumps.
Or Mr. Video was also a name being thrown around. And then as they were thinking that over, they're like, if we named him Mr. Video, no one would ever like him.
That's one of the few times these video game creators have been really smart.
What's funny is, like,
names.
in the original Donkey Kong, like, when they were making it, the only way to get away from the barrels was climbing the ladders.
Okay.
But then they added in the jumping, because, like, if someone was throwing a barrel at you, wouldn't you jump over it?
Yeah.
And so that's why you can jump in Donkey Kong.
Or
Useless video game fact right there.
you could be like those awesome guys at Robot Chicken and just evade it with the Halo guys.
Yeah, that would be cool. Except there was no Halo back then.
I know. It's still my favorite Robot Chicken bit.
In the far distant past of 1981.
If we had a time machine, we could introduce Halo to 1981. That would blow their minds.
Oh, I'm sure it would. Anyway, he has appeared in over 200 various video games, either starring in or just randomly appearing in.
That is not surprising.
And he is Nintendo's official mascot. Also not surprising.
I could have told you that.
Yeah, also not very surprising. But he's also one of the highest-selling characters of all time in video game history.
Once again, not surprising.
Not surprising,
but from that end, I think it's because of the fact that the character has been in so many games.
True, but I mean, that's why I was saying in various capacities for the 200 games he's been in, because sometimes he just has like a cameo appearance here and there, but they count them. But the fact that it's over 210 million units, whatever they consider a unit for a game, so I guess like either a cartridge in the old days
or a CD
CDs or virtual downloads, so they count all that. So that's quite a bit considering there are franchises like Halo, for example, as we've been pointing out, that even in their short lifespan have sold an enormous amount of merchandise and games. And other stuff like the Tomb Raider series had quite a bit of popularity.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat,
stuff like that, where you'd think there would be a dent, but Mario still has a lead. I don't know by what degree, but still a good lead.
It's because he keeps getting mushrooms.
That's true. That and the fact that they keep making Mario games where other franchises die.
Yeah. I mean, well, they are still making Mortal Kombat games, but at the same time, it's not as frequent as they were making Mario games. I mean, yeah, that's just it. It's got that character recognizability.
Yeah, I mean, plus he's, for Nintendo, the go-to character to try something new.
Yeah.
Like, for every game console and platform they try out with, there's always going to be a Mario game on.
In fact, it's usually every time they come out with a new game console in Nintendo, it's a Mario game is the first game they make.
Usually. This time around, Zelda came out first.
With the Wii?
Not the Wii, but they have the handheld 3D.
Oh, okay.
I forget what it's called. It's the 3DS.
Okay.
And they've actually released a Zelda game first.
All right, then.
They are definitely bringing a Mario game to it. They had one on E3, which is a big game convention they have every year. So it's definitely going to be there, but they released... Technically it's not a new game, but it's a re-release, Zelda Ocarina of Time. But they converted it and kind of gave it an update.
Okay, so they kind of gave it a facelift.
Yeah.
Kept all the good parts of the game, just made
some improvements.
Improvements were...
I don't have the console, so haven't played it, but it was a good game when it was on N64.
Didn't play it. The only Zelda game I ever played was the original.
Still a good game.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that one day.
Yes, we will.
And in the various games, he's been voiced by the same person. His name is Charles Martinet.
So not Italian?
No, but he sounds it. So in all the newer games where you can actually hear Mario speak in little phrases that he does, that's the guy who's been doing it, and he's been doing it for several years. Whenever they debuted, the better voice work, because I mean they've had Mario speak in quotations.
Okay.
In other not so good games, like a Hotel Mario.
Hotel Mario?
Yeah. I was going to wait for that, but I didn't write it down. So there was a console called the CDI, which was one of the first consoles to try to incorporate the use of CDs instead of cartridges.
Yeah.
Except it really wasn't that good of a console. They made a lot of bad games.
Well, what was the problem with the console?
Well, for one thing, it was expensive.
Okay.
Two, there was a new technologies. There was still limitations of what a CD could do.
True.
And two, for whatever reason, the CDI just got a bunch of mostly a point-and-click type of game. They were working off that for games. Mario wasn't, but that was most of the ones they had. Two, for some strange reason, I guess just because when the time period it was released, like because home computers were still starting to come out.
Yeah. A
lot of educational-ish things were being made for it rather than actual games. A lot of storybook games,
that actually kind of makes sense if you think about it, because at that time period, a lot of people, I mean, it's not like today where everybody knows how to use a computer like they know how to use a telephone. Mm-hmm. In those days, I mean, I remember in elementary school and even middle school, having certain classes on just how to basic type and basic, how to use Word and stuff like that. Because you didn't have this at home where you could just use it all the time. And so that actually kind of makes sense. If they're incorporating a new technology of using a CD instead of a cartridge, they're probably going to, and because it's of the expense, they're probably going to have it in more schools and daycare, well, not daycares, but that sort of
you'd
setting.
think that, but it wasn't marketed as such. It was marketed specifically as a home game console.
Well, then why were they making educational games for it?
Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. Hence why it failed. And there's like 3 Zelda. No, I think there's 2 or there's 3 Zelda games they made for them. All of them pretty bad, varying degrees of bad, and 1 Mario game where the premise was collect coins, close doors, repeat.
Okay.
So probably one of the worst Mario games.
Sounds like
made.
a bank teller.
Yeah, let's not get into that, shall we? Before we dive into
Collect
games
money
proper.
and close doors.
Yeah,
That's all a bank teller does. Collect money and close doors.
and foreclose homes. Let's not go deep,
I don't
shall
think
we?
the teller does that. I'm just pointing out that it's boring.
Matt,
But I don't need to tell you that.
no, Matt.
Yes.
What is your experience / knowledge of the Mario games? What can you really tell me about them from your perspective and experience?
Okay. Well, from my perspective, I'm trying to think how long it was before I was allowed to play it. And I don't mean that because there was something wrong with the game. It's because of the fact that it was always being monopolized by somebody else. When we finally got a Nintendo system, it was at least in 87.
Okay.
Actually, probably closer to 88. I remember that my parents were they had foster children at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was an older boy that was older than me, and he would always play Mario and Duck Hunt a lot. Because the first cartridge that came out, it didn't just have Mario Brothers, it was Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt.
Yes. I had that one. Not everybody had that one.
That's the one most people had at the time.
Definitely the one that most people had.
And so by the time, I don't even remember how long it was, but when I finally did actually get to sit down and play it, I remember the first 2 sections very well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would always go to the warp drive.
The warp zone?
Yeah, warp zone.
Warp drive. Scotty, warp drive.
I would always go to the warp zone and at the end of the second part and jump straight to, I think, the level 4.
Okay.
I never played it level by level through, because when you can't really sit there that long, you find shortcuts to get through the levels. You can get through the game faster.
I suppose ADD will do that.
Very much. I didn't really understand the fact that he was a plumber or Italian, but it was a guy in what appeared to be overalls and a shirt, and he would jump, and when you got a mushroom, you got bigger. Why, I don't know. I just go with it. And when you get a flower, your clothes change colors and you can shoot fireballs. Or spit fireballs. I'm not really sure how that worked because the graphics were not as good as they are today, obviously, so it was very unclear as to how they were coming out of him. But either way, you were able to shoot fireballs out of something and shoot your enemies. And then you had these little... See, that's the thing, is I really didn't know the names of them. So we made up names.
Okay, this is going to be good.
So you had the evil turtle guys,
Yeah.
which were the Koopa Troopers, I guess.
Yeah.
And we always called the Goombas little squatty guys with the feet.
That was the most creative you can come up with? Squatty guy with the feet?
Yes.
I don't know, you couldn't come up with, there's Billy Bob.
Well, we didn't give them actual names.
I know,
We
but
just gave them little stupid names.
There's the grunt dude. Knock his head in. Since, you squished him.
And then there was the Goombas with the helmets. We called those the helmet guys. Or, no, we called them the football helmet guys. Because they looked like my dad's football helmets.
I think those are
with feet.
I think those are Buzzy Beetles for those of you keeping track.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's okay, I don't expect you to know the names. But for the fans at home.
And then you had the porcupine guys in level 4.
Mm-hmm.
Those were annoying.
Spinies. So you were close.
Yeah.
Or spines. I'm getting used to it.
I think because of the fact that I played the first 2 sections so often, because I hated level 8, because they never gave me enough time.
Yeah, that could be tough.
I don't know how. I don't even know how it was possible for anybody to get past that level.
You just keep running.
Yeah, I would do that. I would speedrun during the entire thing and still couldn't get through it fast enough. Honestly, for me, I needed a cheat code so I could just turn off the timer and get through the damn level. I just couldn't. For some reason, I just could not get through that level.
Did you ever have a Game Genie?
No.
Oh, so you never could cheat.
No. So basically, after about 3 times of that, I got bored and stopped playing.
Ah.
And I think because of that, I had no interest really in playing any of the other games.
Ever?
Ever.
So your only real experiences with the first one on NES?
Yeah. Well, I take that back. Hunter did have the Mario 64. I played that a little bit, but I think maybe like one level just to see what it was like. But because I could never get through that first level on level 8, or the first section on level 8, I got so frustrated that I just gave up. That was actually my experience with a lot of games. I would just get to a certain point, I couldn't get past it, and so I just gave up.
I guess that's why you were never destined to be a gamer.
No, pretty much, I guess.
Because where some people got frustrated and gave up, others would continue on despite that. Now, granted, some games are impossibly hard, where I own a couple games that I like, I can never ever beat.
Yeah.
You know, like the Batman game. It's an awesome game on NES, but insanely hard. I can't beat it.
That makes me feel a little bit better, actually,
you know?
to know that you have not been able to beat a game.
There's many games I can't beat.
Oh, okay.
A lot of them I own.
Yeah, okay.
Not so much newer games, like especially those like where you can save and continue your progress, or go back and update your character.
That
try
is
to
one
give yourself
thing
a
that
better chance.
over the years they finally figure out, oh, people need to save because, they don't have, 20 hours to devote to a game in one sitting.
That wasn't a recent development, because they had being able to save in games for Zelda.
Oh, that's true.
But still, I mean, Zelda was a tough one I couldn't beat until later in life.
Well, see, thankfully for me, my parents spent 2 weeks playing Zelda when they first got it. Well, this was over their Christmas vacation. And so literally, I remember them staying up like all night playing the game, and thankfully Mom mapped everything out on the big fold-out map.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was old enough to play it, I didn't have to figure things out. I just took their lead.
It's funny, because that was one of the few games my dad really, really liked and beat before I did. So much so that since he later, a few years ago, bought a Wii, and then I explained to him what a virtual console was, he has since downloaded it and has been replaying it.
We should do that for my parents.
It's like, hey guys, remember this? Ah, our nights are gone.
They don't have nights anymore anyway. They pass out too early.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed certain aspects of it, but like I said, there was never a game that I gravitated towards a lot. But I think because it was the idea of a video game, that was my first experience with a video game too. Where I grew up, it was a small town. There were no arcades. So the idea of playing a video game, that was the only thing that I had. So I played it as often as I could stand to. Until many years later and another aspect too with Mario Brothers is you can play the 2-player mode.
Yes, which is quite fun.
It is quite fun, except thankfully video games made developments later on where you could both play exactly at the same time. You didn't have to take turns.
Yes.
So
that was kind of a drawback for the first one. But given the restrictions of the technology at the time.
But I will tell you this. Because of the fact that I always would get to this in the second section of the first level, take the warp zone to level 4, and then take that warp zone to level 8, I never encountered a princess. So I never once saved a princess.
Well, you wouldn't until you get to the end of the game.
Right, which I never did. So I never fought Bowser, I never saved a princess. So a lot of... some of the stuff of Mario was completely lost on me because of how I played it.
That's odd. Because even with knowledge of the warp zones, when I played it, I would every now and then just I'll just play through the levels proper, just to get the experience of doing it. Fighting Bowser and all that,
You and I have very different gaming approaches. My goal is to get to the end. Your goal is to look at everything in between.
And just enjoy the experience as a whole.
Yeah. My goal is get to the end, finish the game, do whatever I have to get to the end of it. That's where I go into tunnel mode. I have the blinders on. It's just...
So you would be really bad at playing Final Fantasy. Just let me get through. I don't care about the side quests. Just go, go, go.
God, I hated that game so much. I'd take 2 steps. You've encountered it. It's I don't care about the goblins. Can't we just ignore the goblins? I don't want to fight the goblins right now. I just want to go from castle to castle, beat the guy, get whatever I need, and go. That and this whole turn-based fighting thing.
We'll save that for another podcast.
But it's also because I'm a very destination-oriented person, so that kind of...
So having all the roadblocks and things kind of hampers that.
Yes.
Well, I mean, obviously from what I've been saying, I have a very different experience from you.
Yes.
I do know for a fact that my parents bought an Atari when it came out, because I still have the games. Unfortunately, they sold the Atari. Why, I don't know. I think my dad's reasoning was, well, you lost interest. I'm like, Dad, like in 1985 when the Nintendo came out and I wanted one, I was born in 83, you know? Yeah. Of course I didn't have an interest in Atari. I was too young, you know? I didn't have, like, at that point, I didn't have the attention span to play even the simple games like Pac-Man, where all you had to do was move the guy around. Yeah. And simple concepts like that.
You wouldn't have even had the attention span to play Pong.
Right. But when I did get the Nintendo, whenever it was, I think it was not long after they released the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System. Trademark.
We used to make all kinds of... I don't even know what we call them. We would take Nintendo and like come up with different stories on how they came up with the name.
I have no idea where Nintendo comes from, to be honest with you, other than Japan. I have no idea what it means in Japan, other than maybe gaming company. Who knows?
Like at some point we talked about how Nin was 9-inch nails, and they added 10, and then you end up with a dough.
That's a creative way to think it.
So...
But I do know that I was pretty well hooked on it. Not so much to the point of no return.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. I wasn't able to beat the first Mario until many years later, because even I had to develop first. Because that's one of those things where when you get it so young, a lot of people have compared this to where you're still developing your motor skills at that point, still in that early stage of your life, and your attention span. So you may not be able to react as well to certain events, like, oh, there's a cliff, no. There's fire, duck, oh, no, can't do it.
Yeah.
But as you get older and you get more gaming experience, you can.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I developed playing with that particular game, and through the years I've stayed true to that franchise.
Unfortunately, you couldn't just do a training montage.
No, which would be kind of awesome.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, where's my childhood? I've been on this couch this whole time for the whole montage. I've grown on this couch. It's no good. Man, this is a lousy movie.
It's got an 80s training montage. It's definitely an awesome movie.
You can do it, yeah! Jump, jump, man! Yeah!
There we go. See, we even got the song for
it. Yeah. So, that's kind of my thing. I mean, we did have arcades, but I wouldn't say it wasn't like I went there really frequently. There wasn't a place I could go to just be the local arcade. I just knew there were places that had arcade games. Like, I played the first Ninja Turtle game I ever played was the arcade one in an arcade.
Oh, okay.
And there were other ones that I played, like old-style games like that, and ended up being on Atari, like Pac-Man.
I don't think I played an arcade game, like the upright arcade game, until I was in middle school.
You know where I used to always play like Pac-Man? They would always have Pac-Man, like, on a table.
Where's that?
And sometimes they had, like, the cabinet ones where you can pick between, like, Galaga and sometimes Asteroids.
Okay.
A place where my dad used to take me to get my hair cut. They had arcade games, and he would always give me like 50 cents.
Yeah.
I'd go play a game while he was getting his haircut, and then it'd be my turn.
Right. And
they also had like one of those, I've never seen them since, but they had like a tiny little theater, like a box that you push a button, you can go into as a little kid, push a button, it would show you some cartoons.
Oh, that's cool.
I've never seen it ever since.
Yeah, little cool things like that you don't see too often.
So, I mean, I always looked forward to that. It's like, okay, I get to watch a cartoon, and I can play some Pac-Man. Or whatever they had at the time. So yeah, that was kind of...
And this is where your dad got his haircut?
Yeah, and he would take me to get my haircut.
Guess what they had at the place where my dad would get his haircut?
What?
Legos.
Wow. The local haircuttery. Feed your kid their addiction.
So while Dad was getting his haircut, my brother I'd be over there building like a castle.
Was it like actual Legos, or was it like the Duplo stuff?
Well, it was the Duplo but it didn't matter to me. To me, it was like cool.
Still
they're bigger. The blocks, they're still Legos basically, but I could do my thing.
That's the checklist of Matt right there. We've added Batman and Lego to the podcast that has nothing to do with Lego or Batman.
It's in the theme song, so it works.
Exactly. Moving on. Let's talk about a couple notable games, shall we?
Okay.
There's going to be...
Other than the first one?
Well, it depends on what your definition of the first one is.
Okay.
Because if we're talking...
Go on.
Well, if we're talking strictly chronological order of Mario,
right,
we would consider Donkey Kong to be first.
Okay.
Because Mario was the very first character, his appearance was in that.
Okay.
And the princess you save is not Peach, is not Daisy.
Okay.
It is Pauline. And that's the only game she appears in, so that's all I got on her. Just the name.
No dirt, just her name.
No dirt, just the name. I don't know why the monkey stole her. Just, I don't know.
It's a giant monkey. They always stole princesses.
I guess, just instead of a Empire State Building fall off of its construction site, where you can hurl barrels at you and set things on fire.
Throw a barrel at it!
That's the solution to everything. So the actual very first game that featured the word Mario in it was actually called Mario Brothers.
Okay.
Released in 1984. This is the one that's considered a classic in terms of... This is the one
that we were talking about, right?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
This is actually one where... And actually, it's funny you mentioned he's a plumber. In the Donkey Kong game, they considered him a carpenter because it was on a construction site.
Okay.
But then they changed it to plumber because in Mario Brothers, it took place in a sewer.
Okay.
And this style of art, it's an old arcade game where you've probably seen it. Your goal is things come out of the pipes, you have to hit the bricks under them, and then you go up and kick them to knock them off the level.
Okay.
And it's a two-player game that you can play simultaneously. So one and two-player can play it side by side.
I've never heard of this game.
It appears quite a bit in like a lot of the newer games as like a secondary game you can play. So they include it as that. And it was a standalone game in its own right, like they did release it to home consoles. And even in games like Super Smash Bros., they include that level as one of the levels you can fight on. So that's actually the first game where the POW block appears. It's also the first appearance of Luigi, his brother, because they needed a second player.
Right. And it's his brother as opposed to his...
His identical clone.
Yeah.
As opposed to Mario times 2.
I'm thinking of, suppose, like his random friend or his sidekick or something like that. It's his brother.
We'll get into Luigi. We'll talk about Luigi in a bit. So then you have the one we were both talking about, which came out in the NES in 1985, because it was the one that was primarily released with the console. Now, I do say primarily because at the time, in 1985, 1984 is when the video game crash happened, where things kind of, the bottom fell out of people wanting to play video games. So at first, Japan couldn't, and Nintendo couldn't get their consoles over to America. So what they did was, instead of marketing it as a video game console, they decided to market it a little bit differently. So the first couple ones that came to the U.S. actually didn't feature Mario. It featured a game I think Gyromite. And it came with Rob, Robotic Operating Buddy.
Okay.
It's this little robot you plugged into the Nintendo and acted as your second player.
Huh. It's kind of cool.
Kind of cool. I mean, it wasn't very effective.
Yeah.
But it was effective in terms of, because they were able to label it differently as a toy rather than a gaming device, it opened up the market again. And then they were able to bring over everything and get it really hit the mainstream. Because with the Rob stuff, it was kind of limited success because only a few people got it. But once the door was open just a little bit, they were able to get everything over, and then it took off. Because despite the crash that kind of happened where people were like, video game industry's done, that pretty much breathed a new life into it because, I mean, it was big at the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. I was too young to remember.
I mean, I was too young to remember all that, too. I'm just saying, I'm going by what I've recently read.
Oh, okay.
Because, 1985, I wasn't aware of all that.
Yeah.
How could I have been?
I was going to say, I didn't even really play games till like 90, 91.
Plus, a lot of my friends had video game consoles, so I was able to play before I had
Yeah, very
Nintendo.
few of mine did.
And the second Mario game is sort of a little different in terms of what we got and what ended up actually being. For example, I have two dates that's for Mario 2.
Okay.
One in 1986 and one in 1988. The one in 1986 never came to America until much later on.
Huh.
And it came actually, the first time in America, came on a game called Super Mario All-Stars, where they included a whole bunch of the old Mario games on one cartridge for the Super NES.
I do remember that.
And they dubbed it the
Hunter
Lost
had
Levels.
Yes, I do remember that because Hunter had that one.
And the reason why they're lost levels is because that was a true Mario 2, but it never came here. The reason being is because they assumed that the American market would just say, it's the same game with a few different tweaks. We don't really want it. And they probably would have been right. And so instead, they in 1988, they were like, we need to get a Mario 2 because we're working on Mario 3.
Right.
So let's port a game. Let's kind of change a game and port it and label it Mario 2. They'll never know. And so they took a game that came out in Japan called Doki Doki Panic. Which I have no idea what it means. Your guess is as good as mine on what a Doki is.
Doki Doki Panic!
Yes. So they pretty much changed a bunch of the sprites to make it more Mario-themed, and that became Mario 2.
Okay.
Which is why it's so very different from all the other Mario games.
Never heard of it, never played it. So
that's the one where you can, instead of just stomping on them kills them, you actually can ride them, you can pick them up and throw them at people, the enemies.
Oh.
They also introduced, like, if there's a plant, you can pick it up.
That's cool.
And, I mean, stuff they introduced that wasn't in the normal Mario games have been incorporated in later titles. Like, there have been characters from that game that have since reappeared.
I have a question.
Okay.
If Mario is a plumber,
yes,
how come he never carries a plunger with him?
Good question.
Or a wrench? Or any kind of plumbing tools?
Well, I would suppose having plumbing tools would kind of slow you down when you're trying to jump.
I don't know. He could wear a tool belt and a plunger on his back, like a weapon. I'm just thinking, if he's promoted as a plumber, you'd think he'd have some sort of plumbing weapons tools to use.
I don't think they've ever actually incorporated the plumbing in the games. They did incorporate it in the cartoon.
Okay.
And the movie.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about.
Yes.
We finally get to talk about that. So then they had Mario 3, which also came out in 1988. Which went back to more to form for like Mario 1, but they updated the graphics. They made the game much bigger, and they added a whole bunch of different features. It was a huge, huge success. A lot of people liked that game.
Okay.
And that's still a go-to game for one of the best ones ever on the NES library. And there's a lot of good games, but that's definitely among the top.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
And I don't want to bore you too much with dates, so most of these I don't have any more dates attached to them. I just want to mention them. Because they also, to go on the theme of they're releasing it for every console, on Game Boy, they had Super Mario Land, which had its own sort of storyline concept going.
Is that the one with the 6 golden coins?
That's Mario Land 2.
Okay.
But you're on the right track. Because that's the direct sequel to Mario Land.
Oh, no, that's the other one. I had them both, actually.
Okay. And in Mario Land...
Let me take back what I said about the first game I played. I'm sitting here and it's like, whoa, I totally forgot about that.
And you did own a Game Boy, because I've seen you have games for it.
Yeah, I had the original Game Boy.
So you beat me on that one. I never had the original Game Boy.
Wow.
My first Game Boy was the Game Boy Color.
Yeah, I had the original, the big one, and I came with the case that looked like the Game Boy.
Nice. Oh, no, I take it back. I think my first one was Game Boy Pocket.
No, I never had the small one.
But I've since gone on to...
I had the big one. And honestly, it was very frustrating because you get used to the big one, and then when they came out with Game Boy Color, you're like, oh no, it's all smaller. I can't move my fingers now.
Yes, but as far as I've gone for Game Boys,
of course,
DS is as far as I've gotten.
Now that I think about it, I think one of the reasons I kind of forgot about the Mario games is because as soon as I got a Batman game for that thing, that's all I played. I did eventually beat Super Mario Land 2.
Cool.
That was the only game I've ever beaten.
Awesome. On your own.
On my own.
Because we have beaten games together.
Yeah. But it's mostly because you knew what you were doing.
Yeah, it's true. But anyway, I wanted to backtrack a little bit. In Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers on the NES, I should say, the princess you're going after is Peach, although she didn't get the name Peach until later on, so you just knew her as Princess Toadstool.
I just knew her as Princess.
Or that. Or Princess.
Although I like Princess Toadstool name better.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It sounded more fantasy.
Interesting. I mean, that's still part of her name. She's Princess Peach Toadstool.
Yeah, I just, I don't know. For some reason, Princess Toadstool sounded, I don't know, more interesting to me than Princess Peach or Daisy, because Princess Peach, what's next? Princess Apple? Princess Banana?
Although you did just say the name of the princess you were saving in Mario Land was Daisy.
Oh, yeah.
So very good, Matt.
I don't know. I like Princess Toadstool better. Plus, I think the other thing, too, is that's the only name I had ever heard her as until I met you. So in my mind, it was always Princess Toadstool.
I'm not surprised.
Why are you not surprised?
Well, I mean, you wouldn't have had an interest to find out otherwise.
No, that's true.
So you had Mario on Game Boy. Yep. And one I want to mention is Super Mario RPG. Came out in 1996.
Okay.
And I've written about this before,
okay,
where I considered it to be the equivalent of combining chocolate and peanut butter.
Except for Steven.
Except for Steven. Our friend Steven who hates peanut butter. But for the rest of us, it's that equivalent of combining chocolate and peanut butter where you don't think they would go together, but combining them,
you're like,
it's like awesome.
This is so awesome I can't put it into words.
Because it incorporates all the awesomeness of a Mario game while combining really great aspects of an RPG, like a traditional role-playing style game.
Which is very good because sometimes you get games that, just from the very limited experience I've had, and some of the stuff you've talked about before, is sometimes or in case of point in movies, and anytime you're combining anything, they don't always take the good aspects of both things.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll take the good aspect of one thing and the bad aspects of another thing, or the bad aspects of both.
So which makes you scratch your head and go, why?
So it's good to know that they took the positive aspects of both and put them together.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably talk a lot about that game. I'm not going to, but I probably could. But let's just say it was the very first time they tried this, actually. That was the first game, because they have gone on to make games like Paper Mario, where I know, but mostly they call it that because of the style of the art.
Still, Paper Mario,
I know.
Sounds funny.
It is funny. That's the nice thing about the Mario games. For the most part, they're very lighthearted and fun.
Yeah.
They don't take themselves that seriously, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. And you need something like that, because it's already a really strange premise to begin with.
It's true. Two plumbers get sucked into another world called the Mushroom Kingdom,
where there are no mushrooms, except for the ones that you can grow with.
Well, the people are mushroom people.
Yeah, I never got that at first for some reason.
That's okay. A lot of people are still scratching their head. And the thing is, Nintendo keeps it purposely vague. Where they don't tell you details, or they've never actually officially revealed Mario's last name. They've never actually revealed his age.
Yes.
They've never revealed how in the world did Bowser get kids. Where's his wife? They've never revealed a lot of things.
Asexual reproduction.
Who knows? But if that was the case, why is there a girl Koopa? Yeah, see? There's always that wrench in the thing of
Mitosis?
I don't know. So they've left a lot of details on purpose vague just for the fans to muse over.
Just to mess with them.
Yeah, that too. And, of course, Super Smash Brothers, which is a lot of fun. They first incorporated in Nintendo 64, where they introduced Mario in a free-for-all brawl type of thing.
Yeah, one of the few games I've actually played.
And like.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I can use this guy to beat the heck out of the other guy? Awesome.
And it doesn't require much thought.
Nope, doesn't require much thought, much effort. Really slight learning curve.
It doesn't go on forever and ever.
No, you can pick it up and play it. No story, as far as you're really concerned.
And what I like about that is you can play multiple games in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm. With multiple people.
Yes. That's another aspect of that game I like, because you don't have that as often as you used to.
It's true. And since we're kind of talking about that, I want to bring up the topic of genre.
Okay.
Because there are a couple of variances. Like, for example, the one that you see the most would be the platforming genre, which we talked about with Mega Man, which is
you're
typical.
Two-dimensional, you're seeing it from the side, character moves from left to right.
Right.
Does stuff in between.
Mm-hmm. And being able to move horizontally as well as vertically, and being able to basically make use of your entire environment through various means.
Right.
That's the typical way you see Mario. I mean, with the newer versions, they've been like the 3D stuff they tried with the 64. Still essentially a platforming because a lot of jumping involved, a lot of getting up levels.
I was going to say that one, because my friend Hunter had that, and I did play that a couple times when I was over at his house when he first got it. I think because they changed the format so drastically from the first game that I had played, I didn't take to it very well.
That was a tough one to get to for me. I mean, I didn't own a 64 until many, many years after it was done. Like, they had the GameCube out by the time it was...
Yeah.
I got one, and I got it almost for nothing.
I was going to say, it's probably the way to go, because it's dirt cheap then.
Well, it was cheap, plus I had a gift card.
Yeah.
So I think I got like that in like 2 or 3 games for like $5.
Awesome.
I still only have one controller, but I got a bunch of good stuff for it. That was a tough game to get into at first, just from the fact that it was so different.
Yeah.
And it was a new controller. You had to get used to this new way of doing things. A lot more buttons to try to figure out. So I'll agree with you on that one. That was a tougher one to dive into.
Well, it's Japanese. What do you expect? And a lot of buttons you don't know what to do with. It's like a Yamaha anything. It's got more stuff than you know what to do with. You start looking. It takes you probably a couple of days just to figure out where the on switch is.
But they have branched out with Mario, and they've included sports like Mario Golf and tennis. Racing is a very popular genre for them.
Yeah, Mario Kart.
Mario Kart, which is a fun game in its various incarnations.
In fact, I think, we got my dad Mario Kart, I think, for his birthday this past year.
For the Wii?
Yeah.
Awesome. I've played that.
I have to play that when up there, but...
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, well, it's Mario Kart.
The steering with the controller takes some getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's pretty fun.
I would imagine it would be kind of interesting having to be able to use your actual steering movements as opposed to the controller the way it used to be.
And as I previously mentioned, RPG, but they've also had things like the party games, like the Mario Party series, where it's not so much gameplay oriented as trying to focus on various mini games you come up with, so you could be doing a different action for each one.
Okay.
Depending on which system and what game you're playing.
I never played that one. I remember seeing the commercial for it, but I never played it.
I've never actually played them either because, if I was on the internet, I'd be called forever alone for a couple things, for those sorts of things. Because not all my friends were video game interested. So I've been dealing with the fact that, I have two-player games, but no one wants to play. Oh, well. So no point in buying a party game.
Yeah, that's kind of why I don't have a lot of board games.
It's always good to have a couple around, though. Hence why, even though I really love Super Smash Bros. Brawl, it's great to have more controllers so everyone can play.
Yep.
Even if no one else always plays all the time. I'm sad. No, I'm not. It's all good.
You're just recognizing the fact that...
I'm just recognizing the fact that...
Your friends don't always share the same interest as you.
Right. They'll indulge. We do play.
Sometimes you have to beat them upside the head for them to do things.
Or in some strange cases of hey, I feel like playing a video game, and my jaw hits the floor.
Well, sometimes it just happens.
Sometimes she's like, I feel like a beer today. I feel like having a beer and playing a video game. Andrew! Yes, sir.
Like I said, it just happens. And, sometimes you do feel like doing something out of your comfort zone, out of what your norm is. I think for me, that's what it was. I was in the mood to do something out of my norm.
It's all good.
So,
hey, Matt.
And I know you're not going to...
I'm not going to object.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. You're not going to object. Yes, Andrew, do you have a question?
Name some characters from Mario series. There's going to be no wrong answers unless it's blatantly wrong. Because I'm going to just, we're going to start naming some characters.
Well, we've already named a couple. You've got Mario. You've got Luigi. You've got Princess Toadstool.
Peach.
I'm calling her Toadstool, okay?
Potatoes.
We'll go with Peach, Daisy.
Daisy, okay.
Fuchsia. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a new one for me.
Princess Fuchsia. That's Lady Gaga's character.
I'm sorry.
That is so ridiculous, and yet I can see it awesome at the same time.
I'm sorry, Mario, but your princess is covered in fish.
Why is she wearing a fish dress?
You know what?
Protesting vegetarianism. What?
You know what? I'm sorry I asked. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to go back outside and stomp Goombas for a while until you start being normal.
Yeah.
You hear that? I'm stomping Goombas. Comparing that to normal, okay?
Something's wrong when you can compare stomping Goombas as being normal to what she does.
So what else can you think of?
Who did I say? Mario, Luigi, Princess...
Two princesses,
okay. Toad,
all right.
Wario,
all right.
Bowser.
Okay.
That's all I got.
That's fine. Get a good bunch. Don't really need to go too deep into that because where they appear, but we're going to go down the list a bit just to give...
The main reason I know about Wario is because I played Wario Land.
And that's good.
That is a good one.
I'm glad you bring that up.
That's a fun game to play.
It is indeed.
Mostly because you can go back and forth between levels, and if you like playing a level, you can go back and play it again.
Yep.
Even if you never beat the game.
And it's non-linear.
Because you forget that you're beating the game, or that you're on your way to finishing it. You're like, oh, I want to come back and play this one. No, I want to play this one again. I probably played a couple levels 2 or 3 times, just because I like the level.
That's fine. That's the purpose of a video game, is to have fun.
Yeah.
So we're just going to go down the list of characters, maybe say a couple things about him. Obviously, you have Bowser, the main villain of the series.
Yes, and what is Bowser?
He is a Koopa.
I'm sorry?
Koopa.
I didn't learn about that in biology. What is that?
Well, it's its own thing, really. I mean, sometimes he's referred to as a turtle, sometimes he's referred to as a dragon. Probably a combination of both, because he has got a shell,
Yeah.
but he can breathe fire.
And he's got spikes, and his
He's
head
got
looks
spikes.
more like a dragon.
So
Actually, he kind of looks, and if you actually think about this, it looks like a turtle combined with a dragon combined with Pete from Disney. You know? His face reminds me of Pete's.
I didn't think of that, but okay.
And you could totally see that voice coming through at the same time.
Yeah, you probably could. I'd go with you on that one. And he's been the main villain of the series. Probably also one of the more recurring
What is
characters.
his motive?
He wants to rule the world.
Okay. Because it's not a decent enough villain unless he's got a purpose.
And he wants, steal the princess. Because he's on again, off again, in love with her.
He can't make up his mind?
Well, sometimes the point of the game is, I'm going to capture the princess to take over the world. Or sometimes, I'm going to capture the princess because I love her. And the only way I know how to win her over is to capture her. I don't know how...
Either way, he has some social issues to deal with.
Yes.
Perhaps he should be seeing a therapist
Perhaps.
instead of trying to take over the world or kidnap the princess.
But I don't
That's
think
what Mario should have done. Instead of going through all the little tricks and stuff to get the princess, he should have just called up a therapist and hired one for Bowser.
Well, Mario does have his doctorate degree, so maybe.
Oh, yes, because it's Dr. Mario.
Because he's Dr. Mario.
But I'm Ching.
Puzzle gaming, which I forgot to mention. Good call. And in Mario
All
2...
because Bowser needed a therapist.
Yes. Probably not many therapists in Mushroom Kingdom. There should be.
Perhaps that's what you were building in Dr. Mario, was the medicine that Bowser would have needed to get over his social anxiety issues.
The untold story of Dr. Mario. Mario, MD, coming this fall.
Oh, that would be an awesome trailer.
It would be. Can you imagine if they had a TV show like that for like House, except instead of House, it's Dr. Mario?
Dude, that'd be awesome.
You have Luigi and Princess Peach as his co-doctors.
I don't even know what to say. That's such an awesome idea.
I bet you anything someone's come up with that already.
Oh, no. I highly doubt that.
I bet you it's out there already. I bet you it's been done. Anyway, moving on.
We'll check it out, but I highly doubt it.
We'll check it out.
If it's not, we're doing it.
Wart was the villain in Mario 2.
What's a wart?
Actually,
I know what a wart is. That little thing on your...
He kind of looked like a frog.
Okay.
And
That makes
really,
sense.
Yeah.
People think you get warts from frogs, so...
And that's really...
You
mostly
don't.
I got
You get
for it.
warts from bacteria and other stuff.
Yes.
It's not from frogs.
Biology 101. That's kind of
Well,
the
as you
game
said
he's-
before, we're here to entertain and to educate.
Yes, indeed. And that's kind of... Mario 2 is the only game he's really appeared in.
Okay, it was
But-
kind of like a one-shot deal.
Yeah, but they have
Didn't catch on very well.
They have been trying to think of ways to reintroduce him to the games. Because, we have this character. We should use it.
Well, why don't they have Wart and Bowser team up?
They might one day. Who knows? There's always room for possibility. They are still making Mario games.
Yeah.
And they throw you a curveball every now and then. I mean, they do have other villains that appear in some of the
They
ones
do
on
throw
Game Boy.
curveballs when you have Baseball Mario.
That's true, which they do have.
So, yeah.
And, of course, we mentioned Goombas.
What essentially is a mushroom with feet and eyes and a mouth.
Essentially. That's what they look like, anyway. I think they're supposed to be... I think the actual translation for Goomba, as I've later learned, is... It's either chestnut or something else. But it's not... They're not quite mushroom guys.
So why do they look like a mushroom?
I guess just because of the graphics of the time.
Okay.
But I mean, that's
it
still
was
their
8-bit graphics, so you can't do a lot with that.
Plus they had mushrooms already in the game, so maybe that's just the correlation we all got.
Okay.
And that's still kind of the belief, anyways. There's no confirmed thing of it, but there's always that debate.
Yeah.
And of course, you have the turtle guys, which they just call Koopas, to keep in line with what Bowser looks like.
Now, are they Koopas or Koopa Troopas?
But they're both. Because like in the Mario series, not all the guys are evil. Like in some of the Mario games, there are actually friendly Goombas. There are friendly Koopas.
Koopa.
Yeah.
Koopa Troopa Koopa.
Koopa Troopa Koopa.
That's how you remember the name and the music at the same time.
Okay. And we've mentioned Luigi already. We've mentioned
Luigi.
Peach, Toad, Daisy. We're on a roll here. We didn't mention Yoshi,
Dorsal!
who first appeared in Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I didn't play that one.
I did not surprise it again. Probably because you never owned a Super Nintendo, right?
No, at least not right away. Mostly because my parents didn't have a lot of money, and I was too busy building Legos, and yeah, so they were kind of like, well, you don't really play the Nintendo, and it's a lot of money, we're not really going to buy it. So we had kind of a large span between game systems. Like, we got the Nintendo, like I said, about 88, 87, 88.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get a new system till Sega came out. So, because by that point, my brother was, I think, about 4 or 5 and into games. So, because he had played the Nintendo that we had.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was a good span there where we didn't have any new game systems. So, and I remember seeing the commercials for the Super Nintendo system.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. They did it real stylized where it had, like, the kid was, like, playing the thing on, like, this ginormous screen, and he had, like, lightning in the background, and it was really cool because he would take the cartridge and, like, slam it in, and I always wanted to do that, but my couple of friends I had wouldn't let me do that because they're like, oh, you're breaking. I'm like, but he did it in the commercial, I should be able to do that and look awesome. But, I was a kid at the time, I really didn't know these things, so...
Of course, most kids also didn't have the gigantic screen and lightning behind them.
Yeah. Very true.
Well, for me, I mean, I was similar in the sense of my parents didn't get the Super Nintendo for me right away either. It was probably a couple years after it came out.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason they got them is, one, I was like, please! And the two, it was like...
But you probably played your Nintendo enough.
I did.
At the point of, well, he does enjoy playing these things, so he would use it if we got it.
Oh, really got to the point of, after a while, they stopped making Nintendo games.
Yeah.
And they were pretty much not releasing anything new, and they were going to focus solely on the Super Nintendo. And I was like, my valid argument was, Mom, Dad, the new thing is here. You can't buy the old stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, maybe. And then for Christmas, they got it for me. And then it was many, many years later, like the last game console they bought for me was actually a PlayStation.
Okay.
The rest of them, I take that back. The last one they bought for me...
That is the most recent game system that I own.
I take it back. The last one they bought for me, which I didn't expect, was the PlayStation 2. The rest of the consoles I've bought myself.
Yeah.
Like, I bought all the Game Boys that I have, with the exception of, like, the Game Boy Color that they got me.
Oh, okay.
And I bought the Wii and the Xbox. So, but no worries on my part. We mentioned Wario. He is the...
And he debuted in Wario Land, if I'm not mistaken.
He did. That was his debut.
So I actually know some stuff.
That was a real hard one there, Matt. I'm glad you were able to clear that up.
My one moment to shine here, and you have to take it from me. Thanks.
I'd be more impressed if you remember the date, because I don't.
I'm going to take a stab. I'm going to say maybe 96, 97?
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't write it down.
Well, I'm trying to think. I know I got it. I know I got the game for Christmas one year. Late 90s.
That's okay. We're not being quizzed on when dates came out.
It was probably late 90s. We'll go with that.
Yep. And they use Wario as a sometimes antagonist, sometimes protagonist, depending on what they need him for.
I was going to say, because in that game, he was the protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Because because I never actually finished the game, I don't recall.
I thought you said you beat it.
No, it was Super Mario Land 2.
Oh, okay.
That I beat with the 6 golden coins.
Yeah.
But Wario Land, I played...
Oh, you know what? I take that back. Because I was thinking of something else.
That's right. Super Mario Land 2 was his debut.
Yes.
That's who you were after.
Yes, that's right.
Wario had taken over Wario Land, and you had to restore order to the island or whatever it was.
Yes, that's correct. That's where we messed up. That's the correct thing.
That's okay.
So my sarcastic remark to you was invalid anyway. Hooray!
Well, let that be stricken from the record.
And I have one more character
Backtracking, Super Mario Land 2 is a very fun game.
Yes.
I actually recently pulled it out and played it again after many, many years, and thankfully my gaming experience had gone up quite a bit, and it was a lot easier for me to play.
Yay!
So I was like, hey, this is not as bad as I remember. Because I do remember it being very difficult, but, at the time it was. Because I didn't play games a lot. Mostly, that's part of the reason I had why my parents got me the Game Boys, because I would play them on trips. Because while I grew up in Georgia, I had family in either Florida or Maryland or Chicago. So it was always at least 8 hours to get somewhere to see family. So my parents were probably like, well, he needs something to do. And if I know my mom the way I think I do, she's probably like, I really don't want him bringing Legos into the car all the time. I would also bring paper and pencils and scissors and tape and make stuff in the car.
Which I'm sure they love.
I can't tell you how many Batman masks I made on car trips out of paper.
Which I'm sure your parents were thrilled with the idea of you playing with scissors in the back seat while they're driving.
They were surprisingly okay with it. For some reason, I think they seem to trust me more with a sharp object than they do anyone else in the family.
Well then.
Except for a steak knife. Except when I'm attacking a steak. They don't seem to trust that. But anything else, it's fine.
So they're going to take away your silverware and you'll just be like, har, 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 har.
They'd probably be better off with that, actually. But anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed Super Mario Land 2. What I liked is how each section had its own theme. You had, Halloween Land.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. And you had, Toy Land where area looked like a giant robot Mario. And
the floor were Lego pieces.
Yeah! That was awesome. I totally forgot about that. That was awesome for various reasons.
Yes.
Then you had the Ant Land. And you had I don't remember what the area was called, but you fought the 3 little pigs as your boss.
I think that was actually in the Mario thing you were talking about. The toy area. I think that's where the pigs were.
Okay. Yeah.
But there was also, you can go to space, you can go underwater.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
And I think what I liked about that game was the format of it. You have to beat the boss to get a coin. Once you get all 6 golden coins, it allows you to access the main boss, which was Wario. And you defeat him, and yay! And all the coins are back, and okay, we're done. So
what's also nice about that game is it's non-linear. You can beat the castles in any you can beat the lands in any order you want.
Any order you want. However, there are difficulty levels that kind of increase from land to area.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun.
And the most recent character that they created, since they had an anti-Mario, well, we need an anti-Luigi.
But they were not very creative on the name.
No, they were not at all.
Yeah, at least Wario.
At least Wario sounded different.
Sounded like the evil twin of Mario.
Yeah. Waluigi, on the other hand, just sounds lazy.
It just sounds like while Luigi was over here doing dishes.
Yeah. And he debuted in a Mario Tennis game, so go figure on that one.
Lame.
Yeah.
First of all, the fact that they made a Mario Tennis game, lame. Second of all, the fact that you're debuting a new evil twin, lamer.
Yeah.
Why don't they have it where, okay, we've done Super Mario Land 2 where Wario took over this island and Mario has to rescue it. Why don't they have a similar idea? Hey, Waluigi has taken over this special town and only Luigi. Why not have Luigi debut as his own character? All right, let me rephrase that. Have a solo game just with Luigi.
They have had a couple.
Okay.
Not nearly as popular as the other games, but for various reasons.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people they're kind of like, Luigi's okay, Mario's cooler, and it's like...
Not so much that.
Okay.
It's the fact that I think the first solo games they put Luigi in were educational based.
What?
which suck. And they were bad, too.
Jeez, people, you don't fix what isn't broken.
Yeah, and, you know, if you're going to try to debut someone's new action adventure, don't put it in an educational game. Look, educational games are fine and good if used correctly.
Yes.
But don't put Mario in it.
If created correctly and effectively, yes, educational games are perfectly fine. But let's face it, Mario and Luigi are not for the same demographic as educational games.
Yeah, because, you know, especially...
People in their 30s want to play a Mario game. not an educational game. Kids from, 3 to 6 will probably play educational games. That's about it.
You know, maybe, depending if it's good. And unfortunately, the ones that Luigi were in...
We're not.
We're not. Like, Mario was missing. It's a history game. You have to get facts.
So is it kind of like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
If it were, it'd be fun.
Case in point.
Case in point.
An educational game that's fun, and you know what? It got a TV show that was fun to watch. I used to watch that thing all the time.
It had 2 TV shows.
I know. Yeah, because they had the live action, the game show, and then the cartoon.
And both had awesome theme songs.
I know. We should do a Carmen Sandiego show.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Now that that's out of our system.
Yes. So, and they have had other games for Luigi. Like they had, I think the most popular one that they did was called Luigi's Mansion.
Okay.
It was kind of like Ghostbusters, which was awesome.
Okay.
I never got to play it though, because it came out on GameCube, which I never owned.
Aw, that sucks.
Yeah. I'll have to one day hunt down a copy of the game, because the Wii can play GameCube games.
Okay.
Like you can just put it in the disc.
Oh, okay.
So I'll have to hunt that down one day. I'd like to play it.
When you said it's like Ghostbusters, is that where you kind of go through the house and defeat ghosts?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
But instead of having a zapper, it's, because it's a Mario game and things are kind of funny and a little bit kiddied, he has like a vacuum.
Okay, yeah, I could totally see that. But I could see that making sense in that kind of setting, though. So.
Mm-hmm. But let's move on to out of the video game area per se. Move into a little different genre, shall we?
Okay.
Let's talk about some cartoons.
Okay.
Particularly one cartoon, because I didn't get the other information for the other one.
It's the Super Mario Super Show!
I don't remember the song, though.
Yeah, we just remember that part.
Which came out in 1989. Only had 1 season, but it had a lot of reruns.
Yeah.
And it had a live action segment to it.
Yeah, it was kind of like sandwiched. If I remember correctly, it was a very strange premise. Granted, it was Mario. It was a strange premise. But it was like Mario and Luigi would go down to their basement and like watch cartoons, and then they'd go back upstairs, sort of deal.
Kinda.
That's all I really remember.
I mean, it has been several years since I've seen that portion of the show. I have seen the cartoon in recent years.
Okay. Yeah, because I got you that DVD.
Yeah. Which looking back, I was like, man, this is a weird cartoon.
There's a number of shows that are like that we've discovered.
Yeah, that was kind of the basic premise, and like the live action would have like its own story arc. Like it would be open with that. Like in between the cartoon, they would have a bit more of the story, and then they would end it.
Okay.
And the people who played Mario and Luigi, Mario was played by Captain Lou Albano.
Captain?
Captain.
What was he captain of?
Who knows? That was his wrestling name.
Oh, okay.
But that's what he's referred.
What was his last name?
Albano.
Albano. So that's Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, an Italian guy playing an Italian plumber.
What an amazing concept.
I know. You'd think they would that just makes too much sense, doesn't it?
And Danny Wells played Luigi. I'm not familiar with the rest of his work, but
okay.
Both of those guys also did the voices of the actual show.
Okay.
For Mario and Luigi.
That's cool.
So it was consistent throughout, even if it was weird. throughout. And a decent show, and they did have various other Mario cartoons.
Yeah,
like they had
that where they also debuted the Adventures of Zelda or Link.
Yes, that was also part of that show. Like I remember, like they would have it all week, and then on a Friday they'd have Zelda.
Yeah, I remember that too because that's how it was with us. So you always get to look forward to that. That's one thing they did with us as kids that made us appreciate those shows, because if you save it for a certain day, you get that rarity. So you look forward to that one day where you get to watch that one show.
Or like in certain days with like the magic of Saturday morning cartoons is lost because it's just all shown in syndication all week long.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is special days for special programs for special days, but for the most part, not really.
Yep.
So there's no real point in getting up super early, like, this is the cartoon I must see. Not anymore.
Not anymore. It's kind of a shame.
Yeah, but for the most part, the animated shows had decent runs. They had a lot of reruns for all the shows they did.
Since you've watched them recently, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to word this.
Do they hold up?
No, I'm not going to ask that.
Okay.
My real question is, it's a similar thing. Anytime, because we both had this experience where you go back and watch something you watched as a kid.
Yeah.
Not so much that whether or not it holds up, but what did you, before you watched it recently, what did you remember? And when you watched it recently, did those things come back? How did that change? Like, was it as funny, or was it humorous in a different way? Or, did you remember it being funny and then you later on found out it was supposed to be funny? Or, what kind of was your perception of it from what you remember? And then afterwards, what was your new perception of it?
So, like, for example, for you, like, when you took, like, Darkwing Duck dead serious and then realized later on in life it's a parody.
Yes.
And then were able to appreciate it again.
But I also had to deal with that with the 60s show and Batman, so I understand that all too well.
Well, I think for me, I always knew, like, the premise was supposed to be kind of silly just because the Mario games overall had that sort of thing to them. Now, granted, in the normal games there's very little text, so it's all based on the action.
Right.
But it's the idea of, like, it's silly because, like, in certain games you can run around in a raccoon suit and a frog suit, so obviously it's not being taken that seriously. So the idea of Mario, Luigi, Princess, and Toad running around various worlds, fighting Bowser in various genres, because they would sometimes have shows where they're in space.
Okay.
Or they're robots, or a whole different world in a desert somewhere, doing various things. That part didn't bother me as a kid. Like, there was no premise of, okay, it must be cohesive and make sense.
Right.
Whereas you're already programmed to accept it's not going to make a ton of sense.
Right. You just go with it.
Right. So on that level, that never really changed in terms of when I watched again, because I knew that going in both times.
Yeah.
But as far as the funny aspect, it was funnier as a kid.
It was?
Yeah. But as an adult, the amount of puns they use gets kind of wearing thin on your nerves. When every other thing is a, pasta pun, you get a little tired of it.
So I guess as a kid you were more accepting of it just because...
You have the tolerance for it, I guess. It's just you're a kid.
It's one of those... And I guess I see it more often, with teaching, but, kids do accept a lot more.
Well, plus once you get older, your sense of humor develops too. And so once you go back to trying to go super simple, you're like, this is kind of... below what I am used to.
Yeah.
It's tough to shift gears.
Of it too.
That too. Where every other thing is that one theme.
Well, I'm just thinking a kid's attention span is a lot shorter than ours. Mm-hmm. So, you can do 20 pasta puns and they'll maybe remember 2. Whereas...
I just remembered the thing they always did in the Egypt. It was like, patty cake, pasta man. Give me pasta power as fast as you can. Da-da-da-da-da-da!
Who writes this stuff?
I think that's kind of the thing. It's like, okay, he's Italian, and he's a plumber. Therefore, he'll always have a plunger and a wrench, and he'll talk in Italian pasta puns.
Wow.
We're done for the day. Let's lunch. What are we having? Spaghetti.
Again? Yesterday we had lasagna. And tomorrow's calzones.
That's a good line. Put that in there. Now just throw in something about Bowser and done. That's 2 episodes down. We're on a roll.
Considering that they were more than likely gearing this towards kids.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely
I'm sure that they didn't put a lot of thought into making it a very intelligent show. They just wanted to have fun with it. So,
although they did do like a Star Wars episode.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, and Bowser was like Darth Vader.
That seems kind of an odd pairing, but I'd be curious to see how that worked.
They also had an Indiana Jones episode.
Cool.
Which was kind of weird because for some strange reason they didn't give him a face.
Give who a face?
The character who was supposed to be Indiana Jones.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm kind of baffled too.
Why didn't they make Mario Indiana Jones?
Because he's Mario. Mario was always Mario. Those roles didn't change. For some reason, Bowser's role did. Like sometimes he'd be a robot. Sometimes he'd be a punk rocker.
I guess the reason I would have accepted that is because I remember Muppet Babies, Kermit, they did an episode where Kermit had kind of the Indiana Jones role, where he had the hat and the coat and the whip.
I guess just because, those are kids playing pretend.
Yeah.
Whereas Mario is constantly going somewhere, protecting the princess, making sure she doesn't get kidnapped again.
I think that's why I always like Muppet Babies.
You can relate, huh?
In many ways. In many ways, sir.
But now let's talk about something that we both have seen, both separately and together, which would be the live-action version, Super Mario Brothers, released in 1993, an infamous year.
Okay, before we go on, folks, take logic, put it in your hand, put it in a bag, throw it out the window,
and hope to find it later.
Oh, it'll be right outside the window. So you get it when you need it. You don't need logic right now. So just jump in your car of unpredictability.
Get in your crazy wagon, because here we go.
Yes. I like that. Crazy wagon. Throw logic out the window, get in your crazy wagon, because here we go.
Can't use Crazy Train, because Ozzy Osbourne would sue us.
I like Crazy Wagon better, actually.
Especially if it has like a wobbly wheel. That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, a Crazy Wagon.
I could use a bad pun right now.
Go.
What are you using? What are you drinking? Crazy wagons with crazy straws.
Nice. We have those. We just need a wagon. I used to have a wagon.
What are you wearing when you're cold in that crazy wagon? A straight jacket.
You're making too much sense.
What kind of shoes you wear? Moon shoes. Because they're crazy.
I never had a pair of moon shoes. I always wanted one.
They weren't as good as you think.
Yeah, I would. Now that I look back on it, it's kind of like, because I think they did re-release them, I guess, a few years ago.
Did they?
I think. I remember seeing the commercials. But it's like, they're like mini trampolines, and you really don't bounce. Because when they first came out, they really did a good job of showing slow motion and angling the shot so it really looked like you could jump high. But when I saw, I guess, I'm not sure if it was just maybe a cousin or somebody that had them. They really just like little trampolines. You could barely move in them.
Yeah, that was my experience with moon shoes.
So.
And they made your feet smell like burnt rubber. I've always remembered that. Good quality product right there.
Oddly enough, sometimes my feet do smell like burnt rubber, but it's because I've just ran.
Well, all right there, Sonic. Let's talk about the Mario movie, shall we?
Okay. We need to talk about this.
Actually, let's start a little hypothetical, shall we? Matt.
Yes.
If I was to give you the task of making a movie based on Super Mario, what would be some key elements you would include?
Well, first of all, they both have mustaches.
Yes. Okay. Both have mustaches.
You'd want to cast two guys who could do a convincing Italian accent.
Preferably be Italian,
But at least, I say actors because some guys can do a really good job of making you believe they are the ethnicity they are, even without being that ethnicity.
Okay. I'll agree with you on that.
Okay.
I'll go with you. All right.
And this is just kind of my theater costuming experience coming out. Mario and Luigi should both be wearing overalls.
Mm-hmm.
Mario should have on a red t-shirt. Luigi should have on a green t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Mario should have a red hat. Luigi should have a green hat.
All right.
I think if you're making a live-action movie, it'd be a little bit too cartoony, which I know seems kind of odd because this is kind of a strange premise anyway. But it'd be a little bit too cartoony to have their initials, their letter on their hat.
Okay.
I think the color orientation is enough.
Okay. Now, if I was to ask you to pitch me a story for this Mario movie we're hypothetically attempting, what would you say to me? Pitch this movie to me.
I'd say, well, it's about these two plumbers who they go on call for a plumbing job because somebody's having a problem with their toilet or their bathtub. You know what I mean? You gotta see how you feel about this. Plumbing. They're having a plumbing problem in their house of some sort.
They are plumbers, so we'll go with it.
Yeah, they're plumbers, so they go out to handle this job. and they start fixing the pipes, and something goes wrong, and they get sucked in.
All right.
And they're transported to this other world.
Okay.
And they encounter this talking toad, this talking mushroom, and it tells them about how the princess has been kidnapped by Bowser. And Mario and Luigi are like, what's a Bowser? And so he takes them on this adventure, and along the way, they encounter bricks that they can punch and break.
They find that they have superhuman abilities in this world.
Well, no. They find that
punch bricks, you know?
I'm not there yet.
Okay.
When they eat mushrooms from this world, they get bigger and stronger. And when they eat flowers, they're able to shoot fireballs out of their hands. And so along the way, they, of course, are entrusted upon the task of getting to the princess and rescuing her because Bowser, who is the evil lord of the land right now, is about to take over this kingdom with his Goombas.
All right. That sounds like a good movie to me.
Okay.
I certainly wish whoever made this movie was paying attention to that. I mean, they got a couple things over there.
Because quite honestly, I'm getting excited here talking about it.
Because
I'd never do that.
Because here's the thing, folks. You would think, even with the vagueness of the video games...
Can I stop you right there?
Go ahead.
If anybody listening just got really excited about my description of this movie, thank you. Because we're about to completely destroy your hopes and dreams.
Yeah. Well, I mean, granted, if you've already known about this, if you've seen this movie, you've sort of been shattered.
I will say this. I really didn't have much experience with the games before I saw the movie. Like I said, at this point, I had only played the first game, and that was a little bit... So I really didn't know enough about the world and the setting and the characters and all that.
Well, I'm going to wait for my final judgment.
As we've discovered, I had no concept of plot when I was a kid either. I really had no concept of plot or characters, so I was completely forgiving on everything.
That's okay. I mean, I'm going to wait till the very end of what we're talking about to let people know my feelings, my true feelings and final judgment of the movie.
Yeah.
But I will say, at the time, I didn't know it was a bad movie in terms of a bad movie. But
well, not even in terms of that, just in terms of the fact that it had very little to do with
that I knew. That's the thing.
What you were experiencing.
I mean, that's the thing. As we were going to say, as far as the movie, it got a couple of those plot points Matt was hitting at right, where they did get transported to a different world.
Yeah.
There was a princess involved. They eventually wore overalls. Eventually.
Yeah.
You know, when one guy had a mustache. The rest of it, though, not so much.
Yeah.
Let's start off with the main three that we can talk about. Mario.
Okay.
I hope I say his last name right. Bob Hoskins?
Yes.
Bob Hoskins.
Now, I want to point out a couple things.
He's an English gentleman.
He is an English gentleman. In fact, I want to point out some of his works that I'm quite familiar with. Mm-hmm. Two that you're actually quite familiar with as well. Mm-hmm. He, of course, played Smee in Hook.
Yes.
He also does the voice of Commissioner Gordon on Batman the Animated Series.
Huh. He was also Eddie Valiant in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yes.
Probably his best known role.
I almost forgot about that. But yeah, that actually was the first role I'd ever seen him in. So so right there, he's plays Eddie Valiant, is basically a Hollywood kind of New York detective. He's Commissioner Gordon, voice very different from Eddie Valiant. Mm-hmm. And Smee, who's, a pirate.
Yes. And he's had a lot of other roles, too.
Yeah, a lot. He's done a lot of work. You know this guy. You just don't know you know the guy. Mm-hmm. He's one of those guys. But already there, so the three roles that we've named, even before Mario, we can see that this guy, he's got some talent. He's done a wide variety of things. Okay. There's no reason for me to believe he should not be able to give me a convincing Italian accent.
You'd think that. But he kind of just sounds like Eddie Valiant again.
Yeah, he just kind of goes for the whole New York thing, and it's like, well...
Granted,
I get it that they initially set the guys in New York. I'm okay with that. But you know what? There's Italians in New York. They even have their own little Italy.
Yeah. At least he had the mustache.
I mean, come on. Just watch The Godfather.
And, years later, Bob says that this is his least favorite movie he's ever done, and he regrets doing it.
Well,
which is a shame. But we'll move on quickly.
At least he admits that.
Yeah. We also had I know here you pronounce this one. I know I can't do it. This guy.
John Leguizamo.
There you go. Say that one more time, real slow.
John Leguizamo.
Okay.
Now
he plays Luigi.
He plays Luigi. Now he was in the movie called Pest, which he was very annoying in.
I would hope so.
And he also played the evil clown in Spawn, with a lot of makeup and a lot of padding.
I was gonna say because isn't he really really skinny?
Yes.
But
and
what's his last name, folks? Let's take a little break here for a second and go backtrack a bit. Mario and Luigi are Italian plumbers.
Right.
What is this man's last name again?
Leguizamo.
What does that sound like?
Well, it certainly doesn't sound Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Although, to be fair, Spain is not that far from Italy. However, Mexico is.
So you have a Hispanic man
And an Englishman.
And an Englishman
playing to Italians.
And the age difference, by the way.
Yeah. I would, that's
Aren't
the other
they
thing,
supposed
too.
to be brothers?
They're supposed to be brothers, but their age is really more like father and son. Luigi's like in his late teens, early 20s, and Mario's like in his late 30s, early 40s.
And even in the games, they're either considered twins or very, very closely age brothers. That's still vague, but it's very close in age. So, okay, we're already 2 strikes. Barely into the movie. 2 strikes.
We haven't even gotten into any story points yet.
No. And then we have a guy named Dennis Hopper, who I believe
Dennis Hopper is actually a very well-known actor.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, mostly because he's done a lot of drama, some romantic, not so much comedies. He actually has also done a couple westerns. But yeah, he's a very well-known actor. He's an Oscar award-winning actor. Yeah.
This one, he kind of just showed up and said, I'm just going to do it. Whatever.
Yeah. Well,
I think.
Quite honestly, they are working people. They have to make a living.
Yeah.
And sometimes
you got to earn a paycheck.
It's like the reason we work where we work right now. We don't really want to do it, but it pays the bills.
It pays the bills, and I guess he had a lot of bills that month. Wasn't terrible, but wasn't exactly what we were looking for a Bowser.
Well, the thing is...
Which you didn't call him Bowser, you just called him Koopa.
Yeah, he wasn't Bowser. He did not have a shell. He did not breathe fire. His face did not look like Pete from Goof Troop. Nor did that voice come out.
Nor was he really reptilian until the very, very end of the movie.
Yeah.
Now, granted, all right, so let's start to get into the actual plot of this film.
Okay.
Which is Mario and Luigi are kind of down and out guys. They run a plumbing business, but not doing well.
Okay.
And they meet Daisy.
Huh?
They meet a girl named Daisy. Now, to be fair,
I don't recall that being in my pitch.
Well, to be fair, she's our princess of this scenario. And to be fair, they hadn't officially given Peach the name Peach at that point by 1993.
Well, no,
she was still known as princess.
I'm not. I mean,
I'm just defending the name of going with Daisy first and foremost.
Well,
because a lot of people were like, "Why didn't they use Princess Peach?" I'm like, "Well, for one thing,
I couldn't figure out why it wasn't Princess Toadstool."
Probably because that name alone, right there, was probably a turnoff for the producers of the movies. Like, we can't call her Toadstool because that doesn't sound normal.
Yeah,
because she doesn't start off in the movie in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yes.
Which is, again, the problem of this pitch.
Part right there, she shouldn't be in the real world. She should be in the Mushroom Kingdom.
But she doesn't. So they couldn't call her Toadstool. So, there's Daisy in this game. Her name's Daisy then. So on that level, I can understand. Toadstool is not exactly the most flattering of names. Especially in that premise. But okay. Sure. For the sake of the movie, at that point, you're like, okay, I'll go with it, because at that point, you haven't seen the Mushroom Kingdom yet. You're like, okay, well, that's still a girl they gotta save. I'll go with it. And there are other girls that have been mentioned that are missing. Okay, not really in the games, but I'll go with it for the sake of the movie. Let's see the Mushroom Kingdom. And so you get sucked into the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yep.
By way of some underground, we'll call it a warp zone. They never called it that, but we'll call it that. Because, it's Mario.
It's not through a pipe.
Not through a pipe.
In fact, nobody ever gets sucked through a pipe.
Well, they ride a mattress through a pipe. That was kind of cool.
For some reason I don't remember that.
It was more in the air ducts.
Okay.
Because they tried to freeze them up.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. And then you see the Mushroom Kingdom, and it's nothing like you imagine the Mushroom Kingdom to be.
No, in fact, it looks more like this isolated city in Apocalypse.
Yeah. Now, I want you to think about something for a minute, Matt.
Okay.
In the limited amount of stuff you've seen about Mario.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to go on a limb and give you a lot of things to work with. What are some of the scenery that you've seen?
There's a lot of red bricks.
Bricks aside, like, for example, like...
Castles.
You've got castles, which is fine and good, but you've got, grasslands, for example. Big open plains where you can run around on, a lot of hills. Sometimes you go underwater. Sometimes you're in snowy areas. Sometimes you're in the sky. A lot of bright, colorful things you could identify quite easily.
A lot of primary color usage here.
A lot of primary color uses, but also the fact that,
Clouds, for instance.
Clouds, for instance, but, the most recognizable, because it's in the first areas of the game, usually the grassy open plains. Granted, on the first Mario, it's like you're on a brick surface, but you got bushes and shrubbery in the background.
True.
So you're outside.
Right.
Get the feeling of Mario's adventure is taking place outside.
In the daytime.
In the daytime. Having a good time. Sometimes at night, but for the most part, having a good time. And in this movie, you're stuck in a city. A very dark, very grungy, very punky city.
And not even a cool-looking city like in Batman.
Now, granted, they go to a desert at one point, there were deserts in the game, but that's only for maybe
2 seconds,
a few minutes of the movie, maybe 5 at most. So it's like, okay, strike. I don't know what number we're on because I think we missed. Yeah, it's like, what's wrong here? Why is they in a city? We just came from a city.
Yeah,
this isn't Mario. Which is what you'll be saying quite often through this movie.
In fact, really, at this point, like I said, we've taken logic, we've thrown it out the window. Take Mario, the idea of what you know of Mario, throw it out the window. You are no longer watching Super Mario Brothers. You are now watching whatever on Earth is on the screen.
Yeah.
Just go with it.
Now, the main premise is the fact that there's two separate worlds. The human world, where everyone evolved from apes, as they say in the film, so people who are creationisms versus evolution, please don't email me. I don't want to hear it. It's the movie, not me, all right?
Yes.
And I'm not telling you my stance, so leave me alone. I don't want to hear that one.
My stance is usually left foot forward, right foot back.
And this other world where everyone evolved from the dinosaur. They all look human, but they're reptilian.
I'm sorry. Can we hold on here?
Sure.
What does evolution in any sort have to do with the Mushroom Kingdom?
Well, it doesn't, because they only refer to it once as the Mushroom Kingdom.
Well, if it's a Mushroom Kingdom, where are the mushrooms?
Well, that would be the king.
No, he's not a mushroom, he's a fungus.
In their case, close enough.
And not even that cool fungus that you would actually want to eat, like a mushroom. No, it looks like a snot factory.
Yep, and it's just
it literally
all over the
looks
place.
like the inside of somebody's nose.
Real pleasant looking.
I know. Unless you're a doctor, you never know. But even still, it's like, what? I don't want to touch it. I don't even want to look at it.
Yeah. So that's the basic premise of, and Koopa wants to merge the worlds and take over both. Because he already rules the one, because it's only a city and he happens to be elected for life. The dictator.
I don't... Yeah. He's kind of an idiot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Don't you know managing a bigger place is a lot more hassle than it's worth?
Seriously?
The whole world, that's a lot of management.
It's like, hold on. Why do you want to take over the world?
You can barely take care of one city.
That's what I would love to go up to each and every one of the supervillains who wanted to take over and go and say, hold on. Have you thought the logistics of this through? Why don't we do a test? Take care of one city. Okay. Then control a county. Then control a state. Then control a country. Then take over 2 countries.
If you can manage that.
If you can manage that.
If you can improve things, great.
Yes.
Keep going. You'd want to really...
If you're having trouble with one city, forget it.
If you can't even take care of your own house, you probably shouldn't take over the whole world.
Which really kind of begs the question, what was Brain thinking?
Who knows? Begs the question for a lot of things.
He couldn't even do his own laundry.
No, it's like, real. I mean,
Maybe
plus...
that's why he didn't wear clothes, because he couldn't.
Well, they don't make clothes in mice size, you know.
I know, which was why Pinky could never find rubber pants.
But you want to take other villains, like Darkseid, for example. He owns a whole planet.
Yeah.
It looks like crap. Hey, Darkseid, I don't think you need 2 planets. You ruined the first one.
Well, you know, the reason it looks like crap is because it has to. He's got to look menacing to his opponents.
Yeah, but still, not really.
I mean, granted, the whole fire shooting out of the side is a little odd. It's like, you look at Apocalypse and you're like, you know, you've got fire shooting out of the side from your planet, and you can see it from light years away. You've got some problems.
You might want to move. Now, granted, that might be your motivation.
You might want to suck Pluto into your planetary orbit. That way some of that ice will cool it down. So that, you know, you can have some water on your planet so people can live.
No, rather than taking over other planets, why don't you just, you know, rent out some space?
A timeshare.
Timeshare, you know? Go into a timeshare. Be like, hey, you know, Apocalypse is great and all, quotation marks,
Apocalypse
sarcasm.
is nice, like, for people that live in Chicago. During the winter, they're kind of tired of snow. Hey, why don't you come over to Apocalypse between say, the end of October, beginning of March? You can live there.
You can live there. We can live where you are, because we like the snow so every now and then, you know, because being on this wonderful planet of ours,
made
you're
of
doing
like
a break.
Stone and fire.
So, yeah.
What are we talking about again?
I don't know. We've also checked off the talk about Superman on your checklist. And DC in general.
Go DC! I have no problem with Marvel. I just know more about DC, that's all.
It's fine. So, that's Koopa's plan. And this is all based on the fact that, as they told you in this very strangely animated intro to this movie, that a big meteor hit the Earth and caused the dimensional shift and split.
Yep.
And Princess holds a piece of the meteor that can combine the 2 worlds.
Okay. Andrew.
Matt.
Do Mario and or Luigi ever eat a mushroom in this movie?
No.
Strike 8.
Strike whatever. They use a mushroom.
They use a mushroom?
As a shield. Briefly.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It's not quite the same. It's an effort.
And the mushroom gets bigger.
Yeah.
Not Mario.
Not Mario, but, you know. They did have a bomb, which was kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, if you knew what that was. See, I didn't know what that was. Because I hadn't got to that point in the games.
Yeah.
Did they ever shoot fireballs?
No.
No?
They have guns that shoot fire, which I don't think Mario or Luigi used. Strike 205?
Yeah. That one's worth like a couple, that's worth like 100 points right there.
And what were the Goombas like? Well,
they were funny in the elevator scene.
They were funny in others, but it was like, okay. You remember that end of Beetlejuice where he gets his head shrunk?
That was funny.
They kind of looked like him.
Except with lizard heads.
With lizard heads and giant bodies, because it
Yeah.
was clearly a guy with a thing on his head to have a little head on his head.
Yeah. And you're just kind of like, I don't remember those in the game. I thought those were supposed to be the Koopas. I was very confused because when I saw the movie, I thought those were supposed to be the Koopas. I didn't know Bowser's name at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I learned it a little bit later. It was like, wait, I was so confused at that point.
Yeah, so that's the basic premise, and Mario and Luigi have to save the princess, who's...
I like mine better.
Although she's not exactly the sit and wait to be rescued type of princess, which is at least something, where she does at least do stuff.
She doesn't wear a dress in the movie either.
No, she doesn't.
She doesn't wear a princess dress. And you know...
But of course in that setting it wouldn't make sense, even for that movie.
I don't care. Call me old-fashioned, but if you're going to rescue a princess, she should be in a princess dress. I know. I know. It sounds stupid. I don't care.
Even in modern times, she must wear a princess dress?
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't you see Enchanted?
No.
Oh, see. Yeah, there you go. It's a good movie. I need to get that one because it is funny. It totally plays up all the cliches and everything. It's very much a parody, but it's its own thing at the same time.
So, as you can imagine, this movie was exactly living up to the
I don't think it lived in
namesake.
I don't believe. Yeah,
of
I
a
thought you were
Mario.
going to say expectations. Like, yeah, it didn't even live up to the name.
Didn't do very well in the box office for many reasons.
I can't imagine why.
Now, it did have some groundbreaking effects and style to it that a lot of people... Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the things they did were pretty good at the time.
Such as?
Like some of the effects they did, like with the computer animation stuff.
Okay. Yeah, because that was pretty new at the time.
So they did have a couple things going for it. Wasn't, some of the plot wasn't very good, and some of the story
some
pacing...
Of the plot?
Well, if you're going to... Even for a bad movie, it's got to have some form of
Okay, that's
flow.
what you're saying. Even for what it was,
yeah.
it had some bad things.
Mostly, I think a problem you would have with movies where the pacing would be bad,
Yeah,
where it would constantly be getting slowed down by something,
right.
so the flow would be affected. And obviously, the fact that for the people who were going to see this movie were expecting a Mario movie and got something they weren't expecting.
Get something totally different.
Now, I'll grant you, if you knew absolutely nothing about Mario,
Kind of like me.
kind of like you could probably enjoy it better
Yeah.
for the people who, going in, knew Mario things.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the main flaws, I would say, is the fact that
It's not Mario.
it's nothing to do with Mario. Now, granted, Mario does come in various genres, various settings, so you can play around with that. So having the idea of
But
Mario
there's
in a city...
consistency. There is some consistency between it. you know?
Yes. But, so the idea of Mario in a city may have been a little far-fetched at the time, but if today he had an adventure in a game in a city, at least for a level or two, you could at least accept it.
Yeah.
Especially, but it's in the game, and it has all those elements that still make it Mario.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of the elements that really make it Mario were not present in this film.
Yeah, like he never jumped up and had to hit a question mark block or something.
Yeah, like
He never ate a mushroom and got bigger.
I guess like the aspect of the fact, like in this different world, he had superpowers of some kind, or just had better abilities than the people who were there. Like
Yeah.
Like the idea of like Superman coming from Krypton,
Yes.
and having enhanced abilities being on Earth just because he's in a different place.
Right.
That concept kind of relates,
Yeah.
And it wasn't there. He was still, the only difference was they were warm-blooded humans versus cold-blooded reptilian people who look like humans.
Yeah, that was my biggest problem. It's like, they didn't look like reptiles. If you're going to have this reptilian race, okay, fine. Why are they not at least green skin?
Yeah, that's...
Make them look different.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, I saw this when I was a kid. I say as a kid. I think I was like 11 or 12 when I saw it. Maybe. Do you remember what year it came out?
1993.
Okay, so I was right. I was 11. Well, the thing is,
So I saw it when I was 10.
even at that age, you're still programmed to where you need a visual distinction between things.
Yeah.
And when I'm sitting there watching the movie, it's like, okay, you've got the warm-blooded humans, they should look like humans. If you have cold-blooded reptilian people, they should not look at all like humans.
Or at least have some differences.
Like green skin. Come on, it doesn't take, buy some face paint, paint them all green skin. At least go that route.
At best they had, very odd mannerisms, and sometimes they shook their head really fast. That's kind of it.
That was it. I didn't even catch that.
Like every now and then they'd be like, shh, for various reasons.
How come nobody was sunning themselves on a hot rock?
I don't know. The food they ate was kind of weird, like the fried lizard on a stick.
Isn't that cannibalism?
I guess.
If they're supposed to be a reptilian species, why are they eating... people that eat normal... Well, I shouldn't say normal, but people in our world today eat reptiles sometimes. Like, what was that show? Man vs. Wild. Bear Grylls showing how to cook a snake.
Yeah.
In that depends on the culture. That's not a reptilian thing. If it was reptilian, they'd be eating, I don't know, bugs. Something like that.
Who knows? That's not really important to the film.
They're not reptiles. It shouldn't be there anyway. We need an army of Goombas that look like mushrooms with feet and faces.
Yeah, in all fairness, making it exactly like the video game in live action, I would say is probably really, really hard to do, especially in 1993.
It's really, they could do it now.
They could do it now with like the CG effects they have and blue screens and green screens and all that.
All the different with the different technology they have, they could do it. I think the problem is, Andrew, they need us. They need people with a clear idea.
It's not even that clear of idea. It's like right there in the game. You know? Not that hard to mess up, but someone did.
Yeah, because they didn't just... And granted, I will admit, taking something from one format and translating it to another is difficult.
It is difficult, and there's going to be changes. And changes are... It's going to happen. It's a part of it. I'm willing to accept it.
So all you people that expect a movie that's based on a book to be just like the book, forget it.
Or just based just on the cartoon, or based just like the comic book, or the radio drama, like for the Shadow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. There's going to be differences.
No, there's going to be differences. And you have to accept that. And it's mostly just because of the format, you know?
Mm-hmm. You know,
however...
How do you take a 30-minute cartoon, which was really a commercial, like the Transformers or G.I. Joe, and make it longer? And make it a little bit more cohesive.
And make it entertaining. And it's like, they did a great job with that, you know?
I'm sure and I know a lot of you...
Transformers is a good movie.
I know a lot of you Transformer and G.I. Joe purists are always complaining. Honestly, I have no beef one way or the other.
Cobra Commander in the old show sounded like a whiny person. I'm sorry. I recently watched it a couple months ago. He's whiny. Why would you want a whiny supervillain? Come on. It was good when you were a kid because you were a kid and you didn't know any better. The same with me. It happens. You know, it's like with me and Darkwing Duck. I took it serious because I was a kid. And when you're a kid, you don't know any better. You take things for what it is.
Despite the fact that, guys are getting hit with anvils and falling off things and getting blown up.
Which is why, when you're a kid, you do believe that as long as you look down, you can run in air.
As long as you don't look down.
Isn't that what I said?
No.
Oh.
You said the opposite.
Oh, sorry.
As long as you look down, you can walk on air.
As long as you don't look down, you can run off the ledge and be fine.
And you can survive a stick of dynamite and getting shot until you try it.
I think because of the fact that I saw so many Wile E. Coyote cartoons because my grandfather liked that, I never tried anything like that. Because I saw him fail so many times. I'm like,
I might live through it, but I'm going to look stupid.
I don't want to fail that many times.
Eating a Roadrunner is just not worth it.
I could never understand why he didn't just call for takeout.
Yeah, you can call up Acme or right away to Acme to get all these gadgets and tools. Can't order pizza.
Seriously.
Plus, the Roadrunner is not a lot of meat on him.
He's running all the time.
It's a very small bird.
Yeah.
So it would be a very small meal for a coyote. Yep. We're overanalyzing a cartoon now. We're really supposed to be talking about...
Well, the thing is, I'm glad you point that out because that's what happens. Sometimes people overanalyze a cartoon or a movie about a cartoon that was really a commercial.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, you shouldn't do it. You should enjoy it for what it is.
And on that note... For what it's worth...
Yes.
Despite the fact that, as a kid, I was, in fact, a bit disappointed at the fact that it was not the Mario I knew and loved.
Right.
I can't wholeheartedly say I don't like the movie.
Yeah.
In fact, it's one of those guilty pleasures of mine where I can watch it. I can enjoy it for what it is. I acknowledge the fact that it's not really a Mario movie.
Yeah.
It's not a great movie. But it's kind of fun to watch still. I do like it.
So it's kind of like Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Where it's not a Batman film, but it's a watchable. You can enjoy it on its own terms.
Right. I mean, the movie itself does have its own cult following. There are fans of it. It is
kind of
there.
Awesome, actually.
It is there. People do like it, but it's. I guess just for the fact that style-wise, there is something to appreciate.
Yeah.
Some of the effects are pretty cool. It's just you have to overlook and go with it.
You just have to forget it's Mario.
You really have to take the approach of, okay, everything I know and love about Mario, just ignore for now.
Yeah.
And just watch it as the movie it is. And when you do it like that, it's okay.
Well,
it's still not the best movie ever, and it's still a bit of a disappointment.
I'll tell you this. This is actually only because there's been, of all the scuttlebutt with Green Lantern, which we'll talk about maybe, I don't know, at some point. But I was thinking about it today, and it's like, people seem to have this mentality that the first time anybody tries to make a movie about a beloved character, that they're going to get it right on the first time. And it's like, no, look how many times it took people to make a Batman film before they got to Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. I mean, if you count the 4 Tim Burton Shoemaker films, plus the 60s film, plus the 60s series, which was multiple episodes, plus the 2 sets of 40 serials, that's a lot of screen time. it takes a long time for people to get this right.
Now, granted, going back that far back, sometimes that's for that era. So it works in that
Very
era.
true.
For example, kind of not quite in the same vein, The Incredible Hulk, for example,
right.
who had a somewhat successful TV series.
In the 70s.
In the 70s. They tried to make it into a film. Didn't really work on the first try because it was kind of lame.
Well, it's not so much that it was lame, but...
Just not very good.
It was too long, for one thing.
Too long.
It was too overanalyzed.
I would say that too. Second try, better try.
Yeah, much better
movie. Captain America, coming out very soon. Its first movie, really, really bad.
And we're looking forward to Captain America.
I'm not talking, The First Avenger, that looks like a good movie. I'm talking about the one that was made, when was that movie made, you think?
1990.
In 1990. The 1990 Captain America. Yeah.
It sucked.
It sucks. So, even for something what you would think would be a no-brainer.
Oh, no, I have to. They're actually re-releasing that on DVD now because of the new movie.
Oh, no.
And it's like, no! Let's just forget that one didn't happen.
Couldn't you let this one be dead and buried?
And it's like, it's not even like the 60s Batman where it's intentionally funny. This one's just bad.
Yeah. And the thing is, again, the concept is there. It's for the idea of, it's a World War II soldier fighting bad guys.
But the thing
How
is,
could you mess that up?
It's fighting Nazis, no less. I mean, that's the thing, is you've got an American hero who's basically a walking flag fighting Nazis. Clear good guys fighting clear bad guys for good. I mean, well, for the point of being good, I guess.
Yeah.
To save the world sort of deal.
And they focus too much on the fact that, put Captain America in a modern setting.
Yeah.
They completely miss the cool concept of a war hero movie.
Well, not even so much that. If you look at the trailers for the movie, which I know by the time this show comes out, the movie will already be out, but they're focusing on the character.
Which is nice.
Of Steve Rogers. What a concept!
I know.
Focus on the character, invest the audience in the character, not all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Such a strange concept. Who would have thought that would actually make for an entertaining film?
Yeah, I mean, and the nice thing with what they could have done with Mario is it could have been both at the same time, where you analyze these characters, because you have these two brothers put in a completely different world.
Yeah.
There's going to be some, adjustment to be done, assuming they can't go back.
And that's the thing, is there wasn't really that much of a clear characterization of Mario or Luigi in the movie, other than the fact that Luigi was always trying to hit on Daisy. And you never knew what the deal was with their relationship as far as Mario and Luigi, because they say they're brothers, but they're clearly old enough, there's clearly enough age difference for them to be father and son, and you're just confused.
Yep, because he's Mario and Luigi Mario.
That, for some reason, always made perfect sense to me. I don't know why. Tell me that, I totally buy it.
Yep.
I think the reason being is because you have Ricky Ricardo from the Lucy Show.
Okay.
And Ricardo is just Richard.
Yeah.
So his name is Richard. So I think that's why I was able to buy Mario. I don't know why. It always made... It's just, I was on board with it from the beginning.
Of the things I have hang-ups about this movie, that's not one of them. I don't mind that. That's not a big deal for me.
I will say this, as I've said before, the scene with the Goombas and Mario and Luigi in the elevator... It's absolutely hysterical.
It does have its moments. That's a good movie to, it's a shame that, is it Mystery Science Theater?
3000.
3000. It's a shame that's not still up and running, because that would be a good movie for them to watch.
Yeah.
Because it's funny. It's fun to watch in its own right if you're in the right mindset.
Yeah. If you're in the right mindset to kind of sit back, relax, watch some weird stuff happen in front of you, and just kind of go along for the ride.
Yep. We're not doing it exact justice. The Nostalgia Critic does a funny review of it.
Yes.
So, and plus of the Captain America movie we were briefly talking about, so definitely watch those.
Yeah.
Because he's quite funny.
So I will say, some of his points I don't necessarily agree with, but he is overall pretty good in his assessment of the stuff that he reviews that I remember or that I've seen recently, or, for instance, Steel, where I completely agree with him on everything because I thought that the first time I saw it. Have you seen his review of that?
Yes, I've seen his review of that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, wow, Shaq, you should never act.
It's not even
despite the fact that it rhymes, it shouldn't be.
It's not even so much that even if a good actor
I know,
that role,
the premise of it was
still
so bad.
Crap. But, yeah.
Also, I want to mention the Angry Video Game Nerd, because he has reviews of Hotel Mario, Mario is Missing, and some of the, games we were briefly mentioning.
They should do a combination of those two and call it Mario's Missing in a Hotel. It could be like Clue.
If it was like that, it'd be fun.
Yeah.
It would have been a fun game, but it wasn't.
See, this is why we should go work for these people.
You want to make the games? No, I just want to be there to hear the ideas.
You just want to come up with the ideas.
But also, someone comes up with an idea, I want to be there to either reject it or accept it.
We need to be the editors-in-chief.
Yeah. I want to be the James Jonah Jameson of Nintendo.
The what?
I want to be the James Jonah Jameson of Nintendo.
I thought you said James Earl James. I'm like, who's he?
James Earl Johnson? James Earl Jones.
I know James Earl Jones, yeah.
He'd be pretty cool. I'd have an awesome voice. I could say I played Darth Vader, even though I kind of did, kind of didn't. Here or there.
Imagine what his kids must have gone through.
I am your father. We know, Dad.
They can't watch any Star Wars movie ever. They hear their dad. They have haunting memories.
Dad, why'd you cut his hand off? I wasn't me. I just did the voice.
They can't watch The Lion King.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, that's not so bad.
Well, no.
He's just about the circle of life. That's all good.
Lion King was a good movie. It was better than Mario Brothers.
Well, yeah. That goes without saying.
The worst part about the movie? They didn't even use the music from the game.
They had it very, very briefly in the intro.
Oh, they did?
They had it extremely brief, because it started off with the da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then that was it. Because then it went into that weird, not very well animated intro they did.
We need to make a bunch of money.
That goes without saying, too.
So that we can afford to make a Mario Brothers movie and hire John Williams to do the score using the theme song.
Well, that would probably require all the money just to license it from Nintendo, and unfortunately they're probably going to be very protective of their things.
They have, but rightfully so. I mean, it's interesting. That was the only movie based on a game that Nintendo endorsed
and marketed
that has ever been made.
Because it didn't do well.
Because it did so horribly. Because if you look at the other games like Tomb Raider or most recently Prince of Persia, they at least were successful enough to make their money back. They certainly were not flops.
No, and they were also made with other companies.
Yeah.
Like, those are other companies' creations, but all the Nintendo stuff is being well protected. Now, I'm sure there's going to be room for negotiations if the script is right, if the actors who sign on are right, because they do have a lot of franchises. I've mentioned this before.
Yeah.
They have a lot of franchises that are movie ready.
Because you've got Mario.
You've
got Zelda.
Got Zelda.
You've got Mega Man.
Mega Man is Capcom, so they could do that anytime they want. But they've got the Metroid series.
Okay.
It would be weird, but they could do Donkey Kong, maybe as an animated movie, because they'd had an animated show.
Okay.
They have Kirby, which was also an animated cartoon. They could always do an animated movie with.
Is Battletoads Nintendo?
It's a good question. I don't know.
We don't. Ooh. I've stumped you.
Well, I don't remember all the companies, because there were so many Nintendo games.
Still, I'm just impressed that I'm stumped you on a video game question.
I honestly don't know if that's a Nintendo franchise or not. It might not be, because whoever made Double Dragon, although that might be Nintendo too, they had games where the cast of Double Dragon was with the cast of Battletoads, like in the same game. Double Dragon is a movie they tried too. So I think not, now that I'm thinking of it, because they did make a Double Dragon movie.
I saw it when it came out, but I really don't remember vaguely. But from what I understand, it wasn't very successful either. So, and it's not Nintendo's fault. I think Nintendo's just been very wary of it because
that's the thing. They learned their lesson, not to just throw it out.
At least they learned their lesson fast, unlike some other people.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would say, it's not impossible. It's not, never say never when it comes to a Nintendo-based movie. It might happen. Nothing has been released.
Hopefully it will happen sooner rather than later, but I hope that they are able to redeem themselves from the past.
Mm-hmm. And like just from some of the fan-made things, it can be done. Like there was a fake trailer, I think IGN made it for Zelda.
For Zelda,
and it looked epic.
It did.
Where people were legitimately excited to see it. They were like, "This looks awesome."
And then we found out it was just like a fan-made trailer, and it was more like an April Fool's joke. And it was like, no,
and like, no, that looked perfect.
Yeah,
that looked like just the thing we were wanting all these years.
And here's the thing, I'll tell you this is something that has just kind of come about and it's new, just because of sites like YouTube and the fact that making videos, as we've learned throughout the years with projects of our own, that it's actually sometimes for people to get what they want, the fans just need to make a trailer almost as a pitch video and say, here's what direction we want to take this. That's what they did for that Mortal Kombat web series.
Yeah.
That you saw.
I saw it the first time the other day. It was a pretty awesome looking thing.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Yeah, so did I. And so did other people. That's why they were able to get on board. But, they're doing it as a web series. So you're seeing it's not necessarily a movie, but it's still out there.
Speaking of that, I'm glad you brought that up because I completely forgot. There is a lot of fan-based stuff on YouTube for Mario.
Okay.
There's a lot of people who compose music. There's a lot of people...
There's some really cool acapella stuff.
There's very cool acapella stuff based on the video games.
Yeah.
Like, not just Mario, but like Zelda and Tetris.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who I've seen... there's a couple that can do accordion versions of them.
Yeah.
There's actually I think it's a bassoon symphony of doing Mario music.
That sounds pretty cool.
So, the influence is there. There's a lot of fan-made parodies and homages to Mario.
Yeah.
And the franchises. So the desire to see Mario...
The desire to see it is there. I mean, even for me. I mean, I pitched, like I said, I'm still thinking about how... I mean, it's just seeing it in my head sounds really cool. Like, I'd love to see that.
Well, plus the pitch of, Dr. Mario, MD.
I kind of forgot about that.
Would be pretty cool, too.
That would be pretty
that's its
cool,
own thing.
But just the idea of the Mario Brothers and making it almost more in the style of just a straight-up action adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Make it lighthearted, kind of like in the same vein as Star Wars, where, yes, you got these fantastical things happening. You're in this other setting, but it's got a sense of humor to it at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, we as fans, we do want a Mario movie. We don't necessarily need a live-action one, because with CG nowadays, we'd be more than happy to have, a Pixar-style Mario Brothers movie. That would be awesome.
You know what, though? Quite honestly, you could do both.
I know you could.
Because you could just have Mario, Luigi, and the princess as live-action actors against blue screen, and everything else could be CG.
It's true. Just look at Avatar. That was all CG.
That was a combination of...
Well, that'd be what you're talking about.
But,
then.
Even the movie Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you've seen that one or not.
No, I haven't seen that.
But that was the first movie to use a heavy CG, and it looks very realistic. I mean, with the way the technology is, yes, it would be CG, but it wouldn't look animated. It would look real, but at the same time, you could get all those fantastical elements in there against, these three these three actors, and it would look totally believable.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of what I'd like to see,
Yep. So I think don't have much more to say on Mario. I mean, he'll jump in from time to time, especially if there are new games that I'm going to get my hands on to play. I do know that, as I said at E3, they announced and had demos for the 3DS Mario game.
Oh, cool.
And they'll, of course, since the Wii is still their primary console at the moment, they will continue to make Mario games. Like they are coming out with this thing called the Wii U, and it's like a controller you plug into it, but it has like a TV screen on it.
Huh.
And it's like a different playing experience, and it has its own games.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, didn't mention this, but it's going to be very brief.
Okay.
Virtual Boy sucked.
What the heck is Virtual Boy?
Don't worry about it. Go watch The Angry Video Game Nerd. It sucked. It had a really lousy Mario game on it. The best game on it was a Wario-based game, and it's a shame they never ported it because it was an awesome game. That was the only good one.
Okay.
I just had to say that out loud because, as a gamer, the Virtual Boy sucked.
Okay.
That's all.
I don't think I've ever seen you quite that frustrated before.
I'll show you the video one day.
Okay. In the meantime, keep searching because your princess is in another Freakacast.
Freaks out!
The content of the Freakacast is copyright to Andrew Felson and Matthew Puetz. All characters belong to their respective owners. A full list of music used will be provided on the website. This podcast is for entertainment use only. Copyright 2011.
Freaks in, freaks out.
Mario, swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario. Take one step and then again. Let's do the Mario all together now. You got it. It's the Mario. Do the Mario. Swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario. Take one step and then again. Let's do the Mario.